Good afternoon all, buenos dias. So very nice to welcome you for this first webinar of the IFCU Biennial. You will be with us for I will say artistic journey, and we are very proud and happy to start this initiative, this artistic journey with one of our member university, but also one of the 4 universities who participate to this initiative. So just to give you some context, this initiative is on the occasion of the Federation Centenary. So the Federation, with the participant of 4 university members, has decided to organize an international exhibition. So this exhibition is hosted on a digital portal. I will share the link of this portal during this webinar, and we'll have the chance, in fact, during this several weeks, but also through this series of webinars, to have access to some arts and artifacts from 4 different university collections. And during this journey, we will discover the collection of Seton Hall University through the Walsh Gallery, but also the collections of the Catholic University of Peru, also from the University of San Joseph in Macau, China, and also the collection and the artifacts of the Museum of John Paul II, Catholic University of Lublin in Poland. So for this first webinar, I'm very pleased to welcome the team of Seton Hall University, and especially from the Walsh Gallery. And today we will have the pleasure also to listen and to interact with 2 guests, Atim, Annette, OTON, with the guest curator of Walsh Gallery at Seton Hall University, but you are also director and curator of Calabar Gallery in New York. And you will share also the floor with Sarah Pinitera, who is assistant dean for the special collection and also at the Walsh Gallery at Seton Hall University. So I won't mobilize and keep the floor more longer. I will give the floor to our 2 guests, our 2 speakers today, Atim and Sarah, and to tell us more about this exhibition that actually is visible and exhibit in the Walsh Gallery, Contemporary African Spirituality in Art.
Thank you so much. We're really honored to be the first in this webinar series celebrating the IFCU's centenary. Thank you so much for inviting us to participate, and we look forward to all the other forthcoming webinars as well. So I'll just introduce a little bit about Walsh Gallery at Seton Hall, and then introduce the curator, and you'll hear mostly from her about this amazing exhibit. So Walsh Gallery is the primary exhibit space at Seton Hall University. We care for and interpret the university's collections, comprised primarily from the history of the university, and also collections that the faculty have accumulated in the course of their scholarship. We hold 3 exhibits a year, 1 each semester and 1 in the summer. We highlight our own collections in one of the exhibits each year, and the other we collaborate with outside curators and outside artists, bringing them directly to students, finding connections to our curriculum. So this represents one of these collaborations. The current exhibit, Contemporary African Spirituality, particularly embodies this impetus to enrich students' education through diverse encounters with diverse artistic and cultural experiences. This exhibit explores spiritual practices throughout Africa and the African diaspora, giving students abundant opportunities to reflect on their own spiritual experiences and the way that they might be expressed or experienced differently in other cultures. We are delighted to introduce the curator, Atim Annette OTON, who has assembled a thrilling show that she will guide you through in this virtual realm. Please welcome Atim OTON.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Nicolas, for this actually quite an honor to talk to people across the world about African spirituality, and also to talk about the exhibition. I come to this as a Nigerian-born American, meaning my father was Nigerian, my mother's American with Caribbean heritage. So this sort of encompasses my history and my experience with African spirituality on both sides of the world. A little bit about the exhibition. It is an exhibition that encompasses painting, installation, photography, digital film, a couple of installations, intentionally, because you can't really talk about African spirituality without showing objects. So there's some sculpture, and then also it's interactive. So what you will see through this presentation is a little more information about it. And at the end of the presentation, we will take you to a 3D of the exhibition. Okay, Sarah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, so the exhibition, of course, talks about African spirituality, but it looks at African spirituality by taking the work of about 25 artists who are African, African American, and Caribbean, and exploring their relationship to particular themes. Next, please. Okay, so next, please. The exhibition happened through an open call, and also I selected particular artists. So these are some of the artists in the exhibition. So they are emerging, they are mid-career, as well as established artists in this exhibition. Next. As a curator, I work through thematic proposals. For this exhibition, I connected the work of artists into 7 particular themes. One, altars and ritual and prayer. Examples, family, roots, history, community, freedom, and power. And also looking at what the present, the future, and liberation looks like. So next. In this particular exhibition and in this presentation, you will get to see some of the work that relates to these particular themes, whether it's the work of Elvira Clayton, who looks at her family roots, or the work of Willie Cole, or Geraldine, or Seyi Adebayo. Next, please. Brandon King is a New York-based queer artist who basically is currently finishing his MFA at CUNY in Queens. And when I looked at this particular piece, the notion on what is an altar and what people do create, whether he himself created this altar for in his own home. So I wanted to exhibit this piece because in some ways it talks about having to possess power using an altar and looking at space and time. And if you can sort of notice, the spelling is intentional. It's not an altar with an A, it's an altar with an E. So that sort of reflects on how you're honoring your ancestors changes you. So you alter your own personality and they alter their own personality. Next, please. Second also altar that was created was Dr. Antoinette Ellis Williams, who actually happens to be a graduate of Seton Hall's master's program. And she's Jamaican born, lives in Newark, also is a poet and a scholar and also an artist. And her particular altar is a tribute to all of the women, the washerwomen who used to clean clothing with the washerboard and understanding how they have been abused over time and sort of creating a monument or an altar called Burn Altar towards honoring them and the work they've done. Next, please. Vladimir is the third artist who really started to really provoke the idea of how do Africans and Caribbean people deal with voodoo and the combination of Christianity. So the merging of this shows up in her diaspora voodoo survival kit, where the saints, the card, you know, the cards that you see on that have photographs or images really reflect African saints or African American saints. So Frederick Douglass is a saint. Miles Davis is a saint. You know, the spirituality of contemporary and really the past. You know, who do you as a Caribbean Haitian voodoo practitioner, who do you honor and who do you call when you need when you're in prayer? You don't necessarily call the traditional Christian spirits and saints. You would call African and African American and Caribbean spiritual leadership. So next, please. Grace Kisser is Kenyan, but she lives in Atlanta, and she looks at the connection of, you know, what symbols and what objects do I need to heal me in this particular time. It's about power, it's about action, it's really understanding that I live in the present, but I also have to connect AI in terms of my spirituality and what the future is and what possibilities are around cognitive power. Next. Data Oruwari is a Nigerian illustrator, and her work really is about trying to create unique iconographic imagery around African spirituality. Her work is looking at celestial intuition, this particular piece, the sense of, you know, how do you have faith as an African? How do you have intuition as an African? So this is one of those pieces that talks about what it is to be a woman, what is it to be really connected, understanding that your spirituality appears in dreams. It looks at the vast universe. Next, please. Komika Payton is also similar but different in her approach. She actually really talks about the art of death. How do you document, how do you record the, you know, the essence of what dying means, and what does that death mean in connecting to the afterlife, whatever that afterlife is. And that spirituality talks about how we adapt, how we learn from our experiences, and we look for, you know, we have enough faith and intuition that there's an infinity that comes. So the whole notion on I embrace change, which I think, you know, for a lot of spiritual people, you know, it's a discussion that things will always happen. So you have to embrace it and believe and have this faith. Next. Elvira Clayton is really rooted as an African-American Southern artist who basically connects her African roots through material and materiality. So the burlap becomes an important icon to her. And then the second aspect is to connect it to masquerades and traditional West African sculpture and masquerades. So she creates a piece to honor her enslaved ancestors. All of her work is rooted in textiles and also rooted in her connection to Southern folklore. Next, please. Tenjin Ikeda is Afro-Puerto Rican, and his father loved Japanese culture, so named him Tenjin Ikeda. His connection to African spirituality is that he's a practitioner of Yoruba spirituality. So for him, all of his pieces, which is usually typically printmaking, is focused around creating work that really explores sacred myths, oral traditions. So a piece like this is looking at who builds nations from a very spiritual perspective. What communities, what celebrations, and what ceremonies do we have that is rooted to Africa as a Puerto Rican, and particularly a Black Puerto Rican artist? Next, please. Ben Jones is really probably one of the most established artists in the New Jersey area. He's an African American who has roots in the South and also roots from the Caribbean. His real intent is to use his work as part of a struggle for identity, freedom, justice. And for him, it's all about love. So the creation of a piece called Shango Wallpaper is about honoring history, is really about recording time, and really spending a lot of his work recognizing that African spirituality is rooted in everything he does. And it's also really for him, it's about protest, it's about revolution, and justice for Black people. Next, please. Dr. Fahamu Piku is also based in Atlanta, and he is probably one of the few artists that has been able to incorporate hip hop, fine art, and popular culture in his work and really focused on Black masculinity. So for him, his identity and his work on African spirituality has to do with how do you talk about death and dying, and what are the after effects, what rituals, what resistances, what pieces do you create? So he uses the Ogungun mass and creates his own mass to honor all of the Black men that have been killed by police violence as a way to sort of talk about the importance of Blackness and importance of resistance, and how do you honor murder, the victims of murder by police. Next, please. Ransom is also an American artist who grew up in North Carolina and spent a lot of time in New Jersey. His work really is similar in a different way to Dr. Piku's work, where he is also doing the same kind of ancestral honoring. This time in particular, looking at all of the Black families that were killed during slavery, who never really got proper burial, proper recognition. So what he's been creating is tiny little coffin boxes and creating images of families that were murdered, killed during that time. And these coffin boxes, he affixes and nails as protective symbols for for the families. And in a sense, creates a different kind of monument and a different kind of way of honoring ancestors, that grave sites are one thing, but this is a visual art piece that is a grave site. I think he has about 10 of them so far. So in the exhibition, I only showed 3 of them because it really talks about the African American experience through slavery, and what, how do we sort of remember people that were murdered because of the color of their skin. Next, please. Morris Evans is an artist in Atlanta, and this particular piece that I selected is a film that really is talking about the present of today, the future, and what it means to be liberated. So dance is a liberating art performance piece. I think that it's a film that really he uses both dance and also visual imagery and photography to talk about freedom and what that means. The essence of African spirituality has to do with, if I'm connecting to God, if I am here, and if I am going to leave this planet, there's a notion on freedom and what it means to be free in this time. Next, please. So these are some three-dimensional views of the exhibition. Next, please. Next, please. All right. The exhibition showcases African-based religions. A lot of it looks at from Haitian voodoo to Yoruba traditions in Cuba, in Puerto Rico, and also the whole notion on what Afrofuturism means in spirituality. I used to be an architect, so I tend to build exhibitions in the same way. You know, what are the pieces of this project and how do I put together to create a story that is both written but also visual, and also really talks about what the complete experience of spirituality across the globe means. Next. I think that's the end for that. And then we're going to sort of walk you through the exhibition a little bit. All right. So this is Walsh Gallery. So when you come into the gallery, the first pieces you see on the left is Willie Cole. If you want to click on Willie Cole's piece, the one on the top there. So Willie Cole also looks at goddesses and gods. So he has a piece called the Ogun Sisters as one example. And they are ironing. You know, if you look at the work of Willie Cole, he's a well-known New Jersey-based artist. And he uses the iron and uses slave ships as part of his symbolism. Next piece. Okay, we can go around the corner. So there's an artist that uses a door to create work, and then there are paintings in the exhibition, and then also some video. We can go around again, and around, and probably come close. Yeah, thank you. And also go on the right side. Sorry, this piece you probably the other way around on the, okay. Right, for the video that's at the right corner there, we can go and take a look at the, yes, that piece.
Oh.
Okay, so that one, okay, that is in person. All right. We can go to one of the videos down on that side, yeah. So that you get a sense of what, a little bit, sorry about all of the movements. Okay, so this is an artist. You can scroll down a little bit, scroll through it. This is an artist that Seyi Adebajo is really looking at the connection of trans and queer in relationship, queer people in relationship to spirituality. So he took a trip to Bahia to understand where, you know, religion has happened. And, you know, we seem to always separate male and female. And in Bahia, there is no separation, you know, that people come to spirituality without the identity of female and male, but just an identity of human being. So this is a video that he's producing for a Sundance Film Festival that I basically selected for the exhibition. Next, please. You can also see the next video. Yep, that one. All right, this one I found to be very innovative. If you know anything about African American culture, there's always people playing dice. It's called dice game on the streets. So this particular artist decided to create a video about what about the dice game of life and death and getting into heaven, whatever that notion is of heaven. So you can scroll down across to see some of the work. So, you know, you have to first start with blessing the spirits and then you have to bless the dice. Okay. And so, for a curator, you always have to look for projects that are innovative in thinking, in ideas, and also things that you haven't seen before, where people's imagination goes beyond, the norm. You can scroll down more if you can.
Okay.
So that's the blessing. And then he goes and plays dice, and it has a constrictrix, it has a circle on the ground. So, so he draws the circle, and that circle depends on where you're going to go, to heaven or not. So, the notion on how we determine heaven and hell, what does that really mean? And the whole idea of gambling, are you gambling with your life here? Are you going to go into heaven or not into heaven? So those are the things as a curator you find exciting, because it's a different reinterpretation of what art could be, and also what storytelling could to bring forth for you. Next, please. You can probably go around and look at some of the work. You can also go straight down to Vladimir's work, the voodoo. So some of it is just, for me as a curator, is how do I tell a story? Well, this shows parts of the voodoo kit. So, there is Miles Davis, there is just everybody you could imagine that African Americans and Caribbean Americans and Africans honor. Those are our saints. We don't use, John the Baptist as a saint. We use other kinds of saints. And that's kind of how you connect your individual spirituality. And then on the right, with an artist like a South African street photographer who shoots any of the scenes he sees. And typically across Africa, you don't go into a church. You can have church ceremonies or baptisms on the roadside. So this particular artist came upon this particular scene, and it's the blessings and a baptism of children at a particular religious group, all dressed in white, and the priestess or priest is going to do a blessing of children that particular day. Next image, please. And next image. Some people, go to the water side, go to the river and baptize. Other people do it on the roadside. Baptism is part of African spirituality. Some of it may be connected to Christianity, and others may not be connected to Christianity, or the blending of those two cultures or spiritualities. Okay. You can, Sarah, you can go sort of go around and show different pieces across the exhibition. Yeah, this is Ghislaine. So she's also working on a project that has to do with refugees. She did a residency and really looking at how Ukrainian, Afghanistan, and all the refugees that were coming into the Jersey City area in New Brunswick, and trying to tell a story about their lives and their connection to their various spirituality. Next. Yep, that one. And then there's DG, is a fashion designer who's also an artist, and really looking at what the notion of prayer boxes. We all have pray. We use particular types of things to pray. The cross is one, and then for Muslims, it's counting beads. So she said, okay, how do I make another prayer box? What are the elements of prayer? Well, Ifa is one, if you understand African spirituality, and then feathers is another. what are the objects and what are the essence of what prayer would mean, and how do I carry this box with me? Does it have to be a rectangular box? So that expands the notion on what a box is. And it's, you know, it's carryable, it's very small. It's about an 1 inch, by almost 2 inches by 8 inches. So something you could slip into your pocket and carry with you as you travel and pray whenever you want to pray. All right, I guess we could sort of end here because I think it's about 12:30. And I wanted to know if anyone has questions and curiosities.
Thank you very much, Atim and Sarah. Just for the question, feel free to open your mic and ask directly your question or make a comment. It can be a comment, an observation, but also if you feel more comfortable, you can type it in the chat. Just have to say personally that you have oh, Andrea, you have.
Yes.
Yes, maybe you can activate your microphone.
You're mute.
Yes.
Okay. Hi.
Okay.
Do you listen?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. Well, congratulations. I enjoyed very much your presentation. And I have a lot of questions.
Yes.
I will try to summarize it. Some of them are related with the exhibition itself. It's about if it's where is it? It's located. It's
Okay.
If it's inside the university, and who is it for? Is it for students, teachers, or maybe for the first administrative personnel? And that's one question.
Let me respond to that first question.
Okay.
The exhibition is located at Walsh Gallery at Seton Hall University in New Jersey. It is in the campus itself. The building where it's in the campus, there's the gallery, there's the library and other classrooms in the area. It is open to students, faculty, staff, and the general public. So the gallery has always served to have that particular mission. I'm a curator. I like academic institutions for that reason, because it opens to an existing community that is there, which is the students and the faculty and the staff. And then it brings people from the outside to the university. So you get a broad scope of people who come to this exhibition.
Yes, we have a number of class visits, often from history, the arts department, but also sometimes creative writing. We'll have classes come in and the professor will assign each student to write a response based on a piece that they choose. So it's really an amazing way for students to engage with the art more deeply through their classes as well as through individual visits.
Next question. I think you have several. Yes.
Yes. Yes, and thank you very much, because that's very important also for us, because we are trying to develop more strategies related on how we promote more students to relate with their heritage. So for that reason, it's because I'm very interested about how students relate with the exhibitions, how are related with the exhibitions. And the other question is about, I think that if I understand well, this is about African spirituality around the world. So it sounds like a very, very big challenge. So how do you choose these special artifacts, and how do they relate it? And how do you do that? Because it sounds like a very huge challenge for the narrative.
Yeah, it's a huge narrative, but once I identified that I was going to look at a few pieces from each of the different sectors of the world, look at a few artists who are African, whether they are based in Africa or based in the United States, then look at the Caribbean, and then look at the Americas, meaning really fundamentally African American culture, because those are the places where you find the connections of African spirituality. I started really looking at thematics. Let's look at what the rituals are. Who is showing rituals in the work? So some of the rituals are altars, right? So I had to find an artist who was doing altars. The other one was looking at anybody looking at their history, their cultural experiences, their connection to family and community. So then I would find an artist. You know, in general, as a curator, you keep a Rolodex of artists, lots of artists. You have visual images. And then this third part of that was I did a call for artists. So I, you know, reached out to artists. They submitted. I think we had about maybe 250 pieces. I went through all of those pieces to see what was possible. The advantage of doing that was, by sheer coincidence, South Orange Performance Arts Center requested an exhibition. So they decided they wanted to sort of connect Walsh and them. So I ended up doing another exhibition using some of the research I had already done. You know, like I had about maybe 75 pieces I wanted to show. Couldn't show 75 pieces. So I showed, you know, certain pieces at Walsh, and then I showed certain pieces at the other gallery. And then for me, I have a couple of other exhibitions that I'm currently working that will build a base on this. For instance, in this particular show, there was very little on the Muslim experience, for instance. How do Muslims connect to Allah and God? What does that mean? So that was missing, which to me, I think that's a part of, you know, you can't talk about Africa without the Muslim influence on Africa, and also on African American history also.
And the last one?
Yes.
It's about it's about the temporal of the exhibition. Is this temporary or is this permanent? And also if it's related with that, the conservation of the artifacts. If do you have any particular strategy for the conservation of the artifacts?
Okay. So this is an exhibition that I opened in January and will end in May 20th. Generally, exhibitions at Walsh, they usually have 3 exhibitions. Typically, what happens at the end of the exhibition, if the work is not sold, for instance, the work goes back to the artist. The artist is responsible for handling their conservation of the work. There are some strategies around. Some artists may donate pieces to galleries, museums. Some work might be bought by collectors, and they take on the responsibility of making sure the pieces are, you know, conserved. I think the challenge for a lot of artists and also for collectors is, you know, generally when I do an exhibition, I try to get as much information about what the materials are, so that if somebody's interested in it, they know how to take care of it if they know what the materials are.
I'll just add that as the host of a temporary exhibit like this that brings in many pieces, in this case from many different locations, it's quite a logistical undertaking, you know, making sure that all the pieces arrive safe and sound, that they're taken care of, and that they return in the same perfect condition that they came in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Any other questions, curiosities?
I just wanted to thank you, but also I had a question regarding the student appreciation and a reaction to the exhibition. And you know, it's very interesting. We're also, I mean, for all the universities that I attend to participate to this initiative, that to bring also art and culture, but also history and spirituality. But there is strong historical aspect dimension in this exhibition also. And what are the reaction of the students? Do they come quite often? Do you have many students visiting and finally discovering that they can also have access through the campus of the university?
Yes, it's this has definitely been our busiest exhibit since COVID. We had, I think in general, a big drop off. Of course, with COVID, we closed the gallery for a time, and then reopening it. There's definitely a change in the number of people that are on campus because it's possible to do so many more things virtually now, like this webinar. So it's a little less than it was pre-COVID, but we are finding this show has really brought a lot of students back to the in-person gallery experience. And, you know, it's such an emotional show. We're finding that students are really touched by what they're seeing, and they're responding very personally.
Very, very good. Very interesting. So if there is, feel free if there is other comments or questions. Just remind you that we'll send the link to the online portal that will give you also the possibility to appreciate each artifacts from home, in fact, from everywhere in the world. So yes, feel free to ask or to make a comment to Atim or to Sarah. And well, if not, I think we can maybe close this first chapter of this series of webinar. And thanks again, Atim. Thank you very much for your explanation, for your presentation. Thank you also, Sarah, for your collaboration and give us this possibility to discover this very interesting exhibition. And we will continue next time. The second webinar will be with our colleague of the Catholic University of Peru, and we will discover also a different cultural perspective and artistic also background. So thank you to both of you, and thank you to Seton Hall also team for give us this opportunity, and we wish you a very nice day. And hope to see you very soon.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.